Hey, what's going on, GameLeap? It's Coach Cheeks back at it, and in today's video, we're going to be revealing the tier list for patch 12.12 because the changes they got released on Twitter, and we're going to be breaking down what the changes might mean for the tier list for each role and what champions are going to be broken, super bad, and maybe in the former Rise tier. But just before we do get into the video, one thing you guys have to do before you get into your next game is to download the Porofessor app linked in the description because it allows you to quickly import the best room page used from the best players in the world on the champion you're picking. You don't have to make the room page, just one click of a button and bang, you're ready to go. But that's not all, because the app also allows you to scout your opponents, and the app will give you their stats, how well they play their champion, so you can know more about your opponent than they know about themselves. And the app also gives you an in-game overlay, so you can compare your CS and your kill participation to your rank or even challenger players like Faker. And there's a reason why 3 million people have downloaded this free application, guys. It's because it works. So get around it in Season 12. Those links are in the description. Now we'll start, of course, by talking about the top lane tier list. And the top lane is in 12.2 for Darius, Jax, and Olaf, because these bad boys are not getting nerfed. They will 100% be the most broken for another patch. Now, as far as the champions who did actually get nerfed, you can see that Fiora has dropped down from broken into S tier, and that's because her passive is getting nerfed, which won't have the biggest impact in the world, but it's going to affect your laning phase because the base damage is down, and because at the moment anyway in 12.11, Fiora's laning phase is way stronger than what it should be. This is really what allows her to scale into the mid to late game, which is when she takes over. So this nerf drops her down a tier. Now another top laner getting nerfed who was very strong, this is Dr. Mundo. So your passive is getting nerfed, the regen, and also the base health increase from your ultimate, this is getting nerfed as well. But Mundo will still be good. The Balmy Cinder buff last patch going down to 1000 gold, and the tank mythics giving you 100 more HP. The champion will still be playable, but he won't be S tier. This is why he's an A tier. Now elsewhere we also have Singed who's dropping down into A tier because of the nerfs, so the W slow going down to 50%, and you won't be maxing this until the late game, so it will be a 10% nerf for most of the game. Also, your ultimate's base stats, these are decreasing in the early game, increasing in the late game, but Singed really needs to get going in the early game to actually have a big impact. If he falls behind, he's probably one of the worst champions, based on feel anyway, to actually play. But there are also a couple of champions in the top lane getting buffed. So we have Heimerdinger, the first one, in low-key broken, and the reason the Donger is here is because of his synergy with Liandry's Anguish. Because Liandry's, with all the HP in the game at the moment and the durability meta, its value is still very high. And because the Donger's turret HP and also base damage, these are increasing, this is super nice. Also, his E cooldown is going down by 1 second, which means more kills and also less deaths, because this is really how you peel the enemy champ who's jumping on top of you. Now the other top laner getting buffed in 12.2, this is Yorick, and your Mistwalker, the base HP, this is increasing. The Mistwalker movement speed, this is increasing. Your Maiden base HP, this is increasing, and the Maiden chase range on your E, well, this is actually decreasing, but the good thing here is that your Maiden won't die as much. So I could easily have put Yorick in the broken tier, but as for now, he's going to stay in S tier. He's still a great champion. And perhaps one more evolution, guys, in this tier list is the fact that Rise, because of the hotfix bust from last patch, this has seen Rise actually escape his own tier at the bottom. So the former Rise tier, I've actually called this the X-Rise tier. So if you're the worst champion in the game for that role, you will be in that tier, but thankfully, because of those hotfix busts, Rise has actually become a little bit more playable in the top lane. That's why he's in C tier. Now, if we head to the mid lane, we can see that unlike the top lane, there are only two super broken champions, these being Veigar and Yone. And for Yone in particular in 12.2, there is nothing that's going to nerf you or your kit, which is really nice. So this is why Yone is still going to be giga broken. But for Veigar, you might have to consider the Predator nerfs that are hitting the Rift. Well, they're more like adjustments, but the max movement speed you get from Predator is scaling from 25% to 50% now, rather than being a flat 45%. So this is definitely a nerf in the early game. And also the damage Predator gives you, the base damage is down early on, but higher later. But it's actually scaling more off your AP. And the cooldown itself in the early game, this is increasing by 30 seconds. So maybe before level 12, 13, you're definitely going to feel this nerf. But here's the thing with these adjustments, guys, because it's really favoring late game champions. And let's be honest, how many of your games at the moment are not reaching level 16 to 18? Most of them, right? That is really the late game. 3 points in your ultimate, you're probably going to have at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 items. That's when the party starts. And it's still going to start for Veigar, and Predator is even stronger at those stages in a game, which is great for Veigar because that is when you're strong. So he's still going to be a bit too good. Now elsewhere on the tier list, the champions who got changed, we have Annie first of all, who's in B tier for 12.2. Even if your Q's AP ratio is going up 5% and Tibber's base HP, this is increasing, and also the Tibbers resistances, this is increasing at later ranks, but Annie is really just struggling at the moment because it's not a bursty meta. It's really about sustain and DPS, so Annie doesn't really suit the meta, so even if your burst might go up, it's still not that great. Now another champion getting buffed, this is Seraphine. So her E's cooldown is going down to a flat 10 seconds. In the early game, this is very nice, and the CC duration in your E is up by half a second to 1.5 seconds. And you might be like, why on earth is Seraphine on a mid lane tier list? Well, the point is, Seraphine, with Leandra's Anguish and these buffs, is great. And because the meta is more about AD carries now and supporting them and empowering them, Seraphine, that's where she shines. And in the mid lane, because it's a lot easier to scale out of, because it's less scary these days because of the durability changes in 12.10, Seraphine is a really underrated champion, and honestly, probably really good because of these two buffs. And we've also got another champion here in the form of Katarina, who is getting some big adjustments. So your daggers and your passive, the bonus AD ratio, this is decreasing. So what Riot tried to do here, or what their intention is to discourage Katarinas from going attack damage. They want Katarinas to go more AP based, so this is why they're also nerfing your E scaling off your total attack damage by 10%. They are increasing the base damage on this though. Also your ultimate's AD ratio, the bonus AD ratio, well, funnily enough, this is actually increasing by a few percent, and also the on hit in your dagger, this is increasing by 3% at every stage of a game, which sounds a little weird because at the moment lots of Katarinas are going Divine Sundra as their mythic because of all the HP in the game, right? You're going to start shredding them. But Riot have specified they don't really want this to be the build path for Katarina, so how on earth does this make sense? This will only encourage people to go Divine Sundra because of the on hit. The on hit you get from Spellblade, the on hit in your kit as well. So I'm not really sure what the go is here, but that's why Katarina has moved her way into low-key broken. Wasn't doing too great before this, but after these changes, the Divine Sundra build path, I think it's going to be even better, hence why she's in the low-key broken. And the rest of this tier, guys, should really make sense. Lots of bursty champions, they're not that good. That's why they're in C tier, like Akali, LeBlanc, Lissandra, Syndra, Vex, and Zed. Those champions in particular, really not that great at the moment. And you can also see the one champion has snuck her way into B tier, this being Zeri. And Zeri is actually getting nerfed in 12.12. So your W's damage, well, the base damage is actually going up, but it's scaling less off your total attack damage and your AP. But here's the thing, your health regen is increasing, guys, and also the regen growth. This means that if you're playing solo lane Zeri, a lot better. So that's why I've chucked her in the mid lane tier list, and you should be able to scale relatively safely in most lanes and get to the mid to late game, which is when you can take over. Now next up, let's head into the jungle here, and in the broken tier, we can see that there are 4 champions, Diana, Kayn, Volibear, and Wukong. For Diana, with Conqueror really either build if you're going full burst with Rocket Belt, or if you're going DPS kind of off tank with Nash's Tooth and Sunflower Aegis, the champion is so good in every single elo, that's why she's in the broken for 12-2. Along with Kayn, so really red Kayn, we're talking the Ras version because it's durability. That's what this version of Kayn is all about. With Conqueror, Death's Dance, with Gordrinker, Black Cleaver, Moral Malmortius, whatever it is you buy, the champion is unkillable and extremely annoying to play against, so he's in broken. Also Volibear, he is here as well, and even if Predator is getting nerfed, you can still go press the attack and be more than useful, in fact, even more dangerous. That is statistically his best keystone, so Volibear with Turbo Chem Tank, because of the buffs from last patch, really strong champion. And also Wukong, how can we not have the Monkey King on here, with Conqueror, Divine Sundra, and those buffs that came in earlier in Season 12, even if your W got nerfed a few patches ago, even if your E's damage to monsters got nerfed, who cares about this? You don't need to full clear on Wukong, you don't need to AFK farm for 20 minutes to be strong, hit level 3, you're good to go, GG. Now as far as junglers who are getting changed in 12.2, guys, well the first one, we have a Mumu, whose Q's mana cost is decreasing from 70 to 30, which is scaling up to 50 at rank 5. This is massive, and lots of people are talking about supporter Mumu being good again, which 100% is correct, but also for jungle, this is nice. It means you're less reliant on blue buff, and you can spam your Q a little more and be less conscious about running out of the blue stuff. Now also, your ultimate's damage is increasing by 50 at each rank as well. So really nice buffs for a Mumu, and think about last patch with Barmy Cinder decreasing in gold and the tank mythics increasing in HP. Really nice time to play the mummy. Now another jungler getting buffed, this is Ivern. So the health cost in your passive, down by 3%. The mana cost in your passive, down by 4.5%. Your E shield is increasing from 10 in the early game up to 30 in the late game. Daisy's base HP as well as increasing at every stage of a game, as are her resistances. These are massive buffs for the Vern, and I think anyway at the moment, the champion's really good. It's a bit like Seraphine in the mid lane, because you're a support-based champion, not actually in the support role, in this meta because AD carries are important. Peeling those carries, that's more important now than what it has been in ages. So Ivern, just because the meta really suits him, and because of these buffs, he's going to be low-key broken and a really good champion to pick, even in a solo queue environment. Now moving on, we have Jarvan, who's getting buffed, so your mana per level is increasing, and your passive's cooldown is decreasing at later ranks. So a couple of nice buffs for J4, but the problem is your champion is about diving in there. Not good in this meta. With Gore Drinker as well still being a little bit iffy, unfortunately for J4, he's still going to be in C tier for 12-2. Now moving on, we have Viego to talk about. So your passives heal when you possess another champion. This is going down based off the target's max HP. So definitely a nerf. Also your R's bonus damage is doing less damage based off the opponent's missing HP. And your W and E, when you cast both at the same time, no longer instantly stealths Viego. This is a big hit to this champion who's been so popular for so long. He's really been dominating pro play as well. So he's dropping all the way from S tier into B tier. Now the other jungler to talk about, this is Shaco. So your armor growth, this is going down and your HP growth down as well. So you're scaling into the late game, you're going to be a lot squishier. But here's the thing, because you're getting 3 buffs in terms of your damage. So your Q's AD ratio, this is going up 15%. Your W's AP ratio is going up 3% and your E's AP ratio going up 10% and the AD ratio in your E is going up 5%. So more scaling here for Shaco, and I think this is going to be excellent for AP Shaco. So if you're going Leandris Anguish with Lucidity Boots and Zhonya's, whatever else after that, this is excellent news. I still don't think AD Shaco will really be that great. You probably still have to go Turbo Chem Tank to really make it work, but it will be interesting to see what those lunatics come up with. And just like the rest of the roles, guys, if you're playing a jungler who has lots of burst damage like Evelynn, like Zed, like Talia, like Nidalee, like Karthus, it's just not the best meta for you. And regardless of what happens to these champions, they're really just not going to work in 12.12. Now let's head to the bot lane and talk about the AD carries, guys, for 12.12. So in Broken, we have 2 champions. We have Twitch and we have Zeri. And for Zeri, you heard me mention those changes earlier. So your W's damage is decreasing, but the base damage is up. And also your health regen and the growth, this is increasing. This is nice because hopefully this will allow you in the mid to late game team fights to be even stronger in terms of the HP regen, that is. And even if your W will deal less damage in the late game, it really shouldn't change the fact that Zeri is just the standout AD carry at the moment along with Twitch. And both of these champions, what do they have in common? Lethal tempo, of course, and also because the supports at the moment, if we think about Yuumi and Lulu, these enchantresses are still very good and really dominating the win rates. So the synergies in bot lane at the moment with Zeri and Yuumi, Twitch and Yuumi, they're just too good, so they have to be the most broken. Now in S tier, we have a bunch of AD carries: Ashe, Draven, Kog'Maw, Lucian, Samira, and Vayne. Now for Lucian, you're actually getting nerfed in 12.12, because if it wasn't for these nerfs, I definitely would have put Lucian in the broken tier. But what's happening is your base attack damage is going down by 2, and also your Q's damage is decreasing at later ranks, and you're going to max this first. This will certainly have an impact on your laning phase, as will the base AD. You're not going to hit as hard, and this might mean you're going to miss out on kills. You might miss a couple more last hits, which translates to gold, so Lucian drops down a tier. And apart from Zeri and Lucian, there aren't any other AD carries getting nerfed or buffed in 12.12, so this tier list for the most part is really staying the same. So that's the AD carry tier list, and of course the last tier list, guys, of 12.12 is for the support role, and here you can see in Broken we have Renata, Senna, and Yuumi. Now not much is really changing here in terms of Renata and Senna. I'm sure we all know by now why these 2 champions are Giga Broken. But in terms of Yuumi, she has actually risen to the top in recent times because, like I said, with Zeri and Twitch, super broken combination, but also Yuumi is getting some adjustments for 12.12. So her passive shield is increasing, especially in the late game, but your E's base heal is decreasing at later ranks. So you're getting a little jab in that respect, but regardless of these changes, you will be purring in 12.12, so there is no reason to stop playing her. Now in S tier, we only have 4 champions here. Lots of supports are in the B tier, you can see, in A tier, but in the S tier, Lulu, Sona, Xerath, and Zilean. These champions are performing at a very high level in solo queue, and think about that AD carry tier list as well. If you pair any of these champs with a Twitch, with a Zeri, they're going to be very happy. And if you were wondering about Xerath, the reason he is here is really because of the buffs earlier in the season to his E, so the stun duration. It's very impactful for support. People still don't know how good this champion is, so that's why he's in the S tier. Now low-key broken, just like I mentioned earlier for Amumu, that's why he's here, because his Q's mana cost is going down. Now before they nerfed his mana cost to 70, it was a flat 30, and remember, you're getting 2 Q's off really, so this is going to be massive for the Mummy. Now as far as the other supports who are getting changed, guys, in 12.12, we have Blitzcrank. Your Q's damage is increasing, as is your ultimate's damage, so if you do land that 1 rocket grab, it's probably going to result in a kill now. This is why he's moved up from C tier to B tier, and your ultimate's damage going up. This will have an impact as well. Now as far as the other supports, Seraphine is moving up a tier because of the buffs, but we do have Janna going down into A tier from the top tier. Reason being is because the movement speed from your W, this is getting nerfed, the W slow as well as getting nerfed, and your E shield strength, this is down as well. So some hefty nerfs for Janna. This is why she's dropping a couple of tiers. And the last champion we have to talk about for 12.12, this is Soraka. So your healing, this is kind of getting adjusted. So your ultimate healing is actually increasing in terms of the base, especially at later ranks, but it no longer removes grievous wounds before the effect goes through. So this means that if your allied champions are hit with grievous wounds from Oblivion or from Executioners, whatever it may be, this is why Soraka has dropped and actually left Persona for the first time in God knows how long. So those were the tier list, guys, for 12.12. Let me know in the comments any thoughts, any opinions you have. If you agree, disagree, leave them down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave a like down below as well. I'll see you in the next season 12 upload. This has been Coach. Peace.